Wow, so Donald Trump just did an interview with Mark Levin, and it quickly took a very bizarre turn. I want to use this opportunity to highlight the double standard that exists within the mainstream media when it comes to Donald Trump and the way they interview him versus the way they interview Vice President Kamala Harris. They treat these two candidates completely differently, and I will illustrate that throughout this video. I don't want to waste any of your time. Let's jump into it. Make sure you like this video and make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel. So first, I want to point out that Donald Trump has been melting down on Truth Social, and he deployed this new nickname against Vice President Kamala Harris. He calls her Comrade Kamala Harris. And the irony of this nickname, the best part, is that it only works if you pronounce her name correctly, which Donald Trump does not do. But when you pronounce her name correctly, it creates a rhythmic first syllable. Think about it. Comrade Kamala versus the way Donald Trump says it, Comrade Kamala. It doesn't quite make sense. So even Donald Trump's own nicknames are working against him because he is an absolute dumbass. And that brings us to this interview today where Donald Trump hopped into Fox News, his safe space because he's a snowflake that needs an echo chamber, and he did an interview with Fox News where he even misses softball questions.
People like I've never seen anything like it. Look at the way she fought Justice Kavanaugh, the viciousness and the violence.
So Donald Trump says Kamala Harris fought people like I've never seen anything like it. Look at the way she fought Justice Kavanaugh, the viciousness and the violence. I mean, I just want to quickly point out Donald Trump's entire entry into politics back in 2015, 2016 was a bombastic, name-calling person during the Republican primary. Even before that, he made up a conspiracy theory that President Barack Obama was not born in America. So Donald Trump is the one who attacks people in vicious, racist manners, and then he projects and says that he's the victim. He is a cry bully, is when you bully somebody else and then you cry afterwards. Matt Flammable on Twitter pointed out, Kamala Harris asked tough questions of Justice Kavanaugh. Trump is on Fox News because he hates tough questions, and that summarizes this entire interview, softball after softball after softball, and I hope that this summarizes the upcoming debate in about 10 days. Kamala Harris was a former prosecutor and then a senator and then the vice president. She knows how to ask tough questions and handle herself in tough situations. In this next clip, Donald Trump talks about Viktor Orban.
Yes, the Prime Minister of Hungary, as you know who I'm talking about, Viktor Orban.
And he's in the book?
He's in the book.
A lot of these leaders you dealt with are in the book.
Many of them are,
Yeah.
But they asked him, what do you think? I mean, why is the world blowing up? Viktor Orban it's strong. They consider him strong. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. Runs a strong country.
Viktor Orban describes himself as explicitly illiberal. He contributed to the backsliding of his own country, Hungary. So I'm sure Viktor Orban's answer to the question, what's causing this global chaos, was gay marriage or something like that. He is explicitly illiberal. And what's weird about Donald Trump, it's not just that he calls Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin smart, because Obama's probably done the same thing. I mean, Xi Jinping is probably a smart person. That's not the weird part. The weird part is when he repeatedly does that, and then he also puts down our Western allies. So when he talks about Justin Trudeau, when he talked about Angela Merkel, when he talked about Zelensky, he always says that they are low IQ. He says terrible things about them and that he doesn't get along with them. And then that comes in stark contrast to the way that he gets along with Xi Jinping or the leader of North Korea, or when he gets along with the leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin. He gets along with all of these authoritarian leaders, but he conveniently can't get along with these Western allies that we're supposed to be working with. I mean, this article is titled, Hungary's Democratic Backsliding Threatens the Transatlantic Security Order. Hungary's democratic backsliding under Viktor Orban, the guy that Donald Trump was just praising, threatens transatlantic security, necessitating a strategic U.S. response to counter the rise of authoritarianism in Europe and protect our shared democratic values. So Donald Trump becoming the president again doesn't just pose a domestic threat, it poses a threat to the very world order that the U.S. leads, because countries like Hungary, countries like Russia and China will begin to supersede us because these leaders will be free to act on their authoritarian urges and take over countries. For example, Russia is invading Ukraine, and they will go further if the U.S. abandons Ukraine. Hungary is currently backsliding at very, very rapid rates, and the U.S. will do the same if Donald Trump enacts Project 2025. He wants to copy the exact model that Viktor Orban did, where he fills the country with loyalists and then attacks the media media and strips rights away from people. Back to Fox News, this is where the interview really gets bizarre, because Donald Trump slurs his way through an attempt to call Chuck Schumer what he thinks is a slur, the word Palestinian. He has called Schumer a Palestinian repeatedly, and I don't quite get what he's going for.
It's amazing. If you go back 15 years or even less, the strongest lobby in that sense in the United States was Israel. You couldn't say a thing about Israel, Christian or Jew. You couldn't say anything about today. It's like under siege. You look at AOC +3, you look at these people, the way they talk about it, and then you see Schumer, who's become a Palestinian, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's actually become like a Hamas agent. Schumer, how did that happen?
Chuck Schumer is one of the highest ranking, if not the highest ranking Jewish Democrat right now, and Joe Biden is basically the leader of the Democratic Party, either him or Kamala Harris. Let's say it's Joe Biden. He has been ardently pro-Israel throughout this entire thing, and so has Kamala Harris. I mean, when she answered the question during her interview with Dana Bash, she made it very, very clear that she was pro-Israel, and I want to show you the double standard that exists. That's what I promised, so let's watch this clip real quick, and I want to point out why it's bizarre.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Let's talk about
Yeah, that's it, Dana Bash. We're not playing at a level playing field when we get asked questions about their fake reality, and they don't get asked these questions because we don't live in a fake reality. What I'm trying to say is, when Republicans throw random conspiracies to the wall, Democrats are at a disadvantage because we get asked about those on the national stage, but Democrats don't throw out those same conspiracy theories, so Republicans are never asked in an interview if they just recently turned black, or never asked in an interview about these wild things. A good example of this, Ben Wexler on Twitter said, Trump, she's a space alien from space, which is something that Trump would say. CNN, are you from space, Kamala? Harris says, that's a stupid question. Next. And then Politico writes an article titled, Harris evades space question, which is illustrating how Donald Trump gets to dictate the entire narrative, dictate the entire direction of the questions. If he makes up a conspiracy theory about Vice President Kamala Harris being a space alien, the mainstream media then plays into that and asks Vice President Kamala Harris, here's Donald Trump being offensive towards Jewish Americans again. What is new? Every time Donald Trump and J.D. Vance open their mouths, they offend Jewish Americans, or women who can't have children for whatever reason, or black Americans.
How a Jewish person can vote for a Democrat, but specifically somebody like Kamala. She wouldn't even meet with Bibi when he was, look, he came over, he's the prime minister of Israel. He's in a war.